Wow. That's by Toby Mac. Thank you, thank you. Seriously. Wow, wow, wow. He's a Christian. I'm so powerful. Just get myself together here. Okay. He's a Christian songwriter, and so let me read you some of the words that are in that song. Because the last 3 weeks, you've been learning about the unity principles, right? And how you wear them, how you are them, and how you be them. And so the first one is God is. The second, one power, one present. But the shortcut is God is. The second one is we are, right? Born in the image after the likeness. And the third one is we co-create, right? With our thoughts. It's a law of mind action. What are you thinking? Is your thinking thinking? That kind of thing. And that's what Reverend Rose was talking about last week. And so since I came in and kind of interrupt the cycle, we thought, well, let's continue on with that thought of thoughts. How do we change our life? And so this is a song, Speak Life. How do you do that? And so some of his words are, though it's crazy, amazing, we can trust the heart with the words we say. Mountains crumble with every syllable. Hope can live or die. So speak life. Speak life. Look into the eyes of the brokenhearted. Watch them come alive as soon as you speak hope. You speak love. You speak, oh. I do, I don't, I will, I won't. Do you have those moments in a day? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm supposed to be doing something, and I'm not quite sure what that is or what I want to do, or maybe when you're shoulding on yourself, what you should do. So today, stop the shoulding, right? On yourself and certainly on anybody else. Well, it's crazy to imagine words from our lips as the arms of compassion. I was telling Reverend Rose yesterday that when Darlene, some of you know Darlene, who has her angel wings now, she and I, back in 2002, when I first got here to Florida, we worked for a program in Brevard County called Project Girls. And at that time, and I'm sure it's still the same, the drug abuse for kids was worse in girls from ages 11 to 17. And so they thought if we can get those girls at 9, 10, and fill them full of themselves with lifestyle skills and things like that, then in fact, maybe they would say no to whatever would not serve them. And so one of the things that we did was we practiced what it looked like for bullying. And most people think it's physical and or really harsh words. And we said, no, it could be the rolling of your eyes, right? It could be just a dismissive whatever type of thing, with or without words. And so how do you use your words as an illustration of arms of compassion? How do you speak life? Lift your head a little higher. Spread the love like fire. Hope will fall like rain when you speak life. It's a big job being God in this world, isn't it? It is. And so songs like this, they can spread the word in a way that these younger kids, anybody that means anybody younger than me, they get it because it has a tune and they listen to music. And so this is part of what we're trying to do. How can we, just like when you teach a class, how do you appeal to all of the learning styles, right? So we have some behind me, some beautiful seashells and things, and ocean, because that's what I do every day in my sabbatical is get to go and pick up heart shells and things like that. And I got my best compliment today from Judy. She said, you smell like the ocean. I said to Rose yesterday, I'm just getting obsessed with these seashells. And I go and I look for hearts, and all sorts of clarity comes when you're in, and I let the waves be the music for me. And just be present in the moment. How do we do that for ourselves as well? How do you practice these principles of knowing that God is always present, one power? How do you know that we are born in the image and after the likeness? How do you treat yourself every day when you look in the mirror? And then how are you talking to yourself, even before you get out of bed? So I thought, well, let's see, what does Charles Fillmore, our co-founder of Unity, what does he say life means metaphysically? And metaphysically means underneath, beyond the appearance of just the eye. And his definition is the expression of being, with a capital B, which manifests as animation, activity, and vigor. Wasn't that what the song did? Did you not want to move just a little bit? Or get sassy with, your hand or something? So how are you living life? Are you kind of just stagnant, or are you somehow enjoying? He goes on to say that life is substance and ideas are in divine mind. We have a divine mind, each of us. Because remember, we're born in the image and after the likeness, so that we are it. It's pretty simple, but it's not always easy to understand. Life does not emanate from mind, he says, nor does it spring from the physical. Then what is it? It's our attitude, isn't it? And we've talked about how attitudes are contagious, just whether or not yours is worth catching. Right? So if every day we remember that, we think, how will I be contagious today? How will I be contagious? How will I be the one that makes someone who doesn't normally smile, or laugh, or giggle, or something? How do we do that? He says that we are able to enjoy life and be life based on prayer and meditation. Because the prayer and meditation then works with our mind, with a small m, which is the one we live in this world. Some of you might be thinking, when will she be done talking? Well, wonder what's in hospitality, or what's happening later. So I invite you to be present now, right? Any moment that you start to wander, bring it back to center. Bring it back to center, whatever that may be for you. And then I thought, well, what does he say about the word? I have a friend online who is a minister, and she always says, word up. Word up, and then she'll write something, as far as on Facebook or something. And she has 2 young college kids, and they told her that would be cool, so she does that now. So how are we wording up? How are we being mindful? He says, word is the agency by which God reveals God's self to others through us. Just like our words are arms of compassion, we are also being God expressing with each and every word that we use. The word gives order and helps the movement of things. Isn't that right? When we think about something and we want it to be so, we can manifest it, can't we? Scripture supports that. Of course, we can always find something that supports it in the Bible. The Word became flesh, and flesh dwelt among us. That's from John chapter 1, verse 14. So we are the flesh, aren't we? We are the manifestation of what God wants us to be in this world. Now, we get to choose how we're going to express that. That's the great thing about Unity. There's no shoulds, or there's really not even a how-to manual. One of the people I'm working with this year for my own self-development is Byron Katie, and she has a program that's called The Work. She has a book that's called Loving What Is. And so what I'm learning, it's not like I didn't know it, but I'm remembering, is that quit arguing with reality. You don't have to, but it would be a lot easier, Therese, if you did that. So this morning at O Dark 100, I thought, I'm going to go to the beach. And then I heard the rain, and I thought, So I got on my cell phone, and it says, partly sunny on Merritt Island. Really? Because it's raining at my house. And so I thought, well, it won't be raining at the beach, So I get there, and of course it's not raining, right? But I kind of argued with reality for a minute. Wait, it's raining outside, Therese. I actually had this cognitive moment of doing that. Some of the things that she says is about our thoughts that create our words. Everything you thought they were, you are. Busted, right? Because we're always projecting. That's just what we do. It's just how we're wired. The world is what you believe it to be, and it changes as you change. This is my favorite of hers. It's not your job to like me, it's mine. And I think if we all just started with that every day, how different the world would be, wouldn't it? Because if we have our words nicely. So I heard a friend yesterday saying, "Oh, I'm just so stupid." And I said, well, don't talk to my friend that way. They were like, "What?" I said, "You don't get to call yourself names, you know." And so if we can stop in the moment that it happens, then the shift happens, doesn't it? You have to be careful how you hear that. Remember, shift, how that happens. Our thoughts create our feelings that create our experiences. As an illustration of how powerful our words are, Myrtle Fillmore used a daily affirmation to help her change the physicality that she had. She was diagnosed with end-stage tuberculosis. Her mom, her aunt, everybody and female in her family had died of that. And so what she said is that she would speak words of truth to her body centers. Dixie has taught the 12 powers here, right? The 12 faculties of mind. I'm going to try to speak up, Andrew, as opposed to in my microphone. So speak the words of truth to your body and heal it. So for faith, I have faith that God's indwelling power is healing me now. And she would put her hand wherever that power was. And faith is, of course, in our crown chakra. And then strength, which is at the lower part of your back, which is Andrew, if you're looking at the apostles as well as Elizabeth for the female side. I am strong and I have strength. My yoke is easy. So she took this, and if anybody would like a copy of it, we'll get that to you. So she used this word every day, and in 2 years, all of her tuberculosis was gone. After she would talk to her body, she would also then apologize to her stomach for eating that chocolate peanut butter brownie that you ate yesterday, and you didn't just have one, you had two, you know, and would go through, and sorry for my feet that I didn't wear the right shoes. And she had this whole practice of the spoken word, which benefits then, again, the third principle, the law of mind action. How will you honor yourself? So those are informed from Sally Taylor, who also just got her angel wings recently. And so how do we use the word to help us be who we've come here to be? I'm switching between screens here. And I invite you, not all churches do this, but if you want to Twitter or do Facebook while you're here, at least when I'm here, you can please do that and draw everybody's attention to Unity of Merritt Island. So Eben Alexander was the author, the neurosurgeon from Harvard who wrote the book Proof of Heaven. Are you familiar with that? There's lots of controversy around it. However, what I remember when I met him out in Santa Barbara when I was doing church there, is he talked about the word that brought him back to life. And it was his 10-year-old son. So he's in a coma from E. coli. And it's like they're just thinking, let's just turn him off. Let's just, unplug the machines. And his little son kept saying, he was 10 at the time, "Mom, let me go in and talk to him. Mom, let me go in." No. So while Mom wasn't looking or was with the doctors, he snuck in the room. Now imagine seeing your dad all hooked up to all these machines to keep him alive. And he just got into his ear and he spoke. And I couldn't find the words because my book is packed. Whatever he and his dad always spoke about, he spoke in his dad's ear. Like, "Dad, I love you. Dad, we're going fishing," whatever it was, until there was a change. Well, how Eben explains it is, he's in heaven, how he explains it, and he says, and I hear this voice. He says, "I don't know that I'm dead. I just hear this voice that sounds familiar that keeps calling me back." And I knew in that moment that whatever, again, his son was saying, drew him, and he came out of the coma. So we sometimes don't realize how much our words really mean. And so now he's 14. His name is Bond, and he's 14. And he talks about how he brought his dad back to life by speaking love into his ear. And so we know that, don't we, as prayer chaplains? When we visit somebody in the hospital, they say, remember, they're conscious. And so you go in, and so as prayer chaplains, we get all prayed up and get rid of any of our own angst so we can be the presence with this person and speak without looking at any of the physicalities that go on. We also have studied the 4 agreements here. And so the first one is be impeccable with your word. It's amazing how when these unity principles were written, and then everything has come around to kind of support it in a different way. I'm not saying they stole our ideas. I'm not saying that. Well, however, isn't it funny that then just another way of saying it to say, be impeccable with your word, which means be conscious of your mind, the law of mind action. Eckhart Tolle, a really big supporter of unity, says, rather than being your thoughts and emotions, how about being the awareness behind them? Because in every moment, I cannot be what's wrong with you. You cannot be what's wrong with me. It's me reacting to something in you, about you, as you, in the weather, whatever it all is. And so therefore, we cannot be responsible for how you understand what someone else is saying. Thoughts become things. Choose the good ones. And there's a great story about a little girl who wanders off, and they can't find her anywhere, and she's under a tree sitting by herself and for several days, and finally one of the rescue people find her and says, weren't you afraid? And she said, no, I was not afraid. Now imagine an 8 or 10-year-old being all full of herself. No, I was not afraid. Well, how come you weren't afraid? You've been here for 2 days. And she says, because I know God is here. And the guy says to her, the police officer, well, how do you know that? She said, because I'm here. We can remember that when we're in an uncomfortable situation, can't we? And there's a story about a lady who's on the plane. Imagine those of us who have flown quite a bit. You get on the plane, you're so busy, you get all seated in your seat, and it's a long, long flight. And so she's looking for her bag of cookies. Sorry, Reverend Rose. She's eating so well. So she's looking at her book, and some of you have done this. You're reading your book and you're eating, like you're not even paying attention to what you're eating. And she noticed that the man beside her grabbed a cookie, and she's thinking, hello, those are my cookies. But she thought, well, it's all right, I'm gonna avoid a scene. But what she's thinking in her mind is, I just want to, blacken an eye. I didn't get to have dinner or anything. So she took a cookie and he took a cookie, and this went on and on for the whole flight until they're all gone. There's one left. And she says, oh, no, really, go ahead, have it. Thinking other than spitting in his eye. I'll just go ahead, you have that. So gets off the plane, and she keeps thinking to herself, because imagine if you think you're being wronged, you've got this tape going in your mind, right? So she's thinking, he's a thieving ingrate. He's just a thieving ingrate. He just, doesn't even ask. So gets off the plane, gets home, starts unpacking her bag, and in the bag is the bag of her cookies. Now she's home. She doesn't know who the guy is, and just, of course, now she's begging forgiveness, and she says, if mine are here, oh my gosh, it's too late to apologize. She realized she had been the thief, and how embarrassing. So her commitment to herself was, well, all right, so please forgive me, in her prayer to whomever this generous cookie man was. And so how do we react when something seems a little askew? Do you take it as personal from your ego and write the whole script, which means then you are self-centered? Or are you thinking, boy, my ego's really involved here. I'm really all about this guy stealing my cookies. And then you're coming from your higher self. And it can happen in the split of a minute. You just breathe. And this is what I'm learning through all these processes. If I would slow down, or as I slow down, I will affirm with you today, then I'm able to enjoy more. I'm able to really get the idea that Therese isn't in charge, that God is, whatever God looks like for that moment. And sometimes it's one of you, right? So how are you gearing yourself up to hear the word and to know that you can't be lost or afraid because God's always with us, right? Whatever that is that you call God, Spirit, whatever the word is that you use to describe all that is. And the biggest example that most of us would know about how to handle ourselves and our negative thought is there was an author that you all know who's writing. He's a budding author, and he's thinking, I'm just done with this manuscript, and he throws it in the garbage. And that night, his wife gets the manuscript out of the garbage, and in the morning, as he's eating his Cheerios or whatever he was eating, she handed it to him and said, honey, this is a good work. Someone will publish it. But he was frustrated and disheartened. And he's like, I just don't want to do it. And she said, but you can't quit now, Norman. Norman Vincent Peale. The manuscript was The Power of Positive Thinking, which is one of the best-selling books ever. And he was also, Norman Vincent Peale was a colleague of Charles Fillmore. And they sat together, and after their time together is when Charles came up with the word unity for our movement. So even you hear the stories about Edison or Babe Ruth or Mother Teresa, whomever it is, those who we sometimes put up on pedestals, they have all the same feelings we have. And so how are you honoring yourself and knowing that as you speak life, that all is well? So let us speak life.